Caught my girlfriend, 26 female, of 4 years cheating on me, 28 male, last night. Need advice on how to proceed. We've been together for almost 4 years. I've never clicked with someone like I clicked with her. We said our I love yous on the second day we spent together. The first 2 years were the 2 most incredible years of my life. Despite being in neighboring states, we spent as much time together as possible, whether it be via Skype or text, and on the weekends we met up. She was everything I could have ever asked for in a partner, and I thought she was the one. The first 2 years she would always bring up marriage and kids and things like that. But I was in school at the time, and the long distance combined with school and work started to put a serious strain on me, and I knew it would put a strain on our relationship soon enough. So I decided she was the most important thing in my life and prioritized her. Yes, this is all very foolish in retrospect, and dropped out of school to move in with her because she had a very high-paying, stable career. Jobs for me were hard to come by, so I took a massive pay cut and worked a very dehumanizing job. It paid the bills, but that was it. I never once asked her to support me and always made sure to pay my fair share. In the meantime, I worked my ass off trying to better myself through online courses and certifications so I could land a job in a field I had originally wanted. I was depressed and unhappy, but I never showed it, never blamed her for any of it, tried my best to make her happy. The first year after moving in together was okay, some good times, some okay times. It was clear then our relationship wasn't what it used to be, but I chalked it up to us settling in and the honeymoon phase ending. This is also when she started really vocalizing out of nowhere how much she did not want to have kids, even though I never brought it up, and in fact I still don't want to have kids. Then out of the blue she started hinting about how she's perfectly content not getting married too. That should have been a red flag, but again I ignored it. During this time I came close to landing a dream job quite a few times, but always came up just short, and each time I could sense her respect for me dwindling. I told myself to stop being irrational and paranoid, and again ignored something that should have been a red flag. That brings us to our last year together. When we first started dating we had sex pretty much all the time, like as soon as we walked into our apartments. We both have high sex drives and it was amazing. This past year we had sex a grand total of 3 times. And each time it was her doing me a favor after I had basically begged her. Every time I asked, the response was, I don't feel sexy, when it should have been, I don't find you attractive, I don't respect you, and I only keep you around to pay half my rent till someone better comes along. But I respected her wishes, obviously, and stayed with her because I loved her too much. During this time my relationships with all my friends deteriorated, mostly because I was struggling to work, self-teach and maintain my relationship with her. Plus I was in a different state from my close friends and didn't feel like making new ones. For the past couple of months, I had suspected something was really off about her. She started going to the gym and lost a bunch of weight and became a very different person, both physically and personality-wise. She became incredibly cold towards me, stopped doing all the routines we used to have. She was always very needy and clingy, but all of that stopped. Whenever she would show me some affection, it'd just seem so incredibly forced. I tried talking to her about it many times, and she'd assure me that everything was fine. So I'd go back to telling myself I was imagining all of it, that I had read too many threads on Reddit from the guy's point of view. Every second I spent with her at this point was agony, and I felt incredibly lonely. I wanted to end things then, but didn't know how and didn't do it for fear of it actually being all in my head. I basically was looking for hard evidence at this point. Then at the end of last month she told me she's going on a trip to Atlanta with her friends. In the time we've been together she has never gone on a trip with anyone save for me. She never even hangs out with her girlfriends outside of work. I knew that was it, so I didn't stop her. I acted supportively and continued to try and focus on myself. When she returned, that's when the real suspicions began. We've always been very open with our cell phones and computers around each other. We both know each other's passwords. She'd always leave her phone laying around the house, and I'd sometimes use it to take pics of our cats and whatnot. But after she came back, her phone was with her 24/7. Not only that, but she was constantly texting. I still didn't act. She even went in for minor surgery one day and I had her phone with me the entire time, but I decided against checking it. I should have. She started making constant bathroom visits that'd last more than 30 to 40 minutes. Now I realized I should have checked her phone and was just looking for an opportunity. Then last Thursday out of the blue she tells me she has to go visit her parents upstate, 1-hour drive, and spend the night because her dad is going in for surgery. Believable, but my paranoia was on high alert and I was scrutinizing her every move and word. So she leaves for work on Friday. She was supposed to go to her parents straight from work after, and I check her computer. One of the tabs has a Google Maps direction to a neighboring city from her workplace, definitely not where her parents live. By the way, she spent the night before being very affectionate with me. She slept the entire night in my arms, something she's been repulsed by for a long time. I don't know if she was guilty or trying to put my mind at ease, but that got my attention as well. I didn't get any texts from her all Friday. I go into work Friday night, I work nights, and still no texts. This is when she's screwing the guy. Also, by the way, the day before she bought some really sexy lingerie, showed them off to me and then chose to wear the most revealing one to go meet this guy. She texts me Saturday morning and tells me she's coming home now. It takes her 4 hours to get home. It's a 1-hour drive from her parents, most likely had another morning session with the guy. She gives me a ride to work when she gets home and I see the cash in her car. She never keeps cash in her car like that unless she has to pay tolls. Her parents' house doesn't involve tolls, but the Google Maps destination involved tolls, I remembered. I go to work Saturday night and she goes out with one of her girlfriends to a bar at like 10 p.m. She's in bed by 9 most nights and she never hangs out with her friends outside of work. She doesn't get home till 2 a.m. I was on the verge of texting her and asking her if she was spending the night with someone, but just as I was about to, she called me and came home. Sunday she goes into work. She works a part-time job as well. After she gets home we go get some dinner and relax in bed for the rest of the evening. She spends the whole time texting, sexting really, on her phone while she's laying right next to me, but tilting the phone away from her so I wouldn't notice what she's typing. It's incredible how stupid she thought I was. Every time she'd put the phone down it'd be face down. She goes to take a shower and takes the phone with her. I have at this point decided I'm checking her phone tonight, even if I have to snatch it out of her hands and run to the bathroom. I wait for her to fall asleep. Tell my final mental goodbyes to the girl I used to know and this life I've built with her. I take her phone and sneak to the bathroom. I check her text conversations. None of them seem out of the ordinary. The only guy there is her dad. I turn off the phone and am about to put it back when something in my head made me turn back and check it again. The top conversation is from one of her girlfriends I know. I open it. It's not her girlfriend, just her name that she was using to hide this dude. I see all the texts, everything they did on Friday. How much she likes him, how much she wants him and whatnot. I've never felt so defeated and miserable in my life. I didn't think I would be, but seeing those texts was something else. I stormed out of the room and woke her up. She came clean and admitted to the guy but didn't admit to anything else. I can't really believe anything she says anymore. She wasn't even upset, just mildly annoyed. Blamed our faulty relationship on me. I told her I was going to propose to her this Christmas, and that made her even angrier. She told me she had made it very clear she didn't want to get married. I know that's another lie. She does want to get married and have kids, just not with me. I haven't spoken to her today. I don't really know what else to say if there's ever anything else to say. I'm currently in the process of packing and moving back to the other state where I used to live. But I'm a complete mess right now. I've had breakups from long-term relationships before. I've had some others cheat on me before, but it never felt anything like this. It physically hurts thinking about her and this other guy. It hurts thinking about the girl I used to know is gone. She's a complete stranger now. Looks, attitude, even her voice is different when she talks to me. I want to hate her but I can't. That makes me even more miserable. I thought about dating other women but none of that appeals to me right now. All I want to do is go back in time to the way we were. If anyone made it this far, thank you. Typing all of this out really helped. If you have any advice it'd be greatly appreciated. Caught girlfriend cheating, broke up, now feeling destroyed, don't know how to proceed with life. I caught her cheating and forgave her. I'm really disheartened by the reaction and response that occurred recently in regards to the I caught her cheating post. My story. I had been seeing a girl for 3 years and it was wonderful. I couldn't believe I had found someone so perfect for me. We were living together for most of this time, but we ended up being apart for half of a year toward the end for reasons unrelated to the relationship. Despite her being in a different state, things were still as good as ever. We made a few trips to see one another, and I thought that things were actually building up. The relationship was getting better and better. Then there was a period for a few months where she seemed to become distant. I feared the worst but assumed I was being paranoid. This girl was far too emotionally connected to me for there to be anything else going on. So I thought. I decided that I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I let this slip away over something so silly as the distance between us. Even thinking that it could somehow evaporate seemed silly, we were just way too close. I acted out of paranoia nevertheless. I called her and told her I wanted her to move back in with me, and that I couldn't stand for us to be apart any longer, and that I felt us drifting. I can't explain how horrible the following moment was. I had never heard her so sad. She was mortified and I could tell. Before she said anything, she told me I'd hang up and never speak to her again. I told her that wasn't going to happen. Maybe that prepared me. At that point I assumed cheating, but in the back of my head I was thinking she had maybe gotten a disease or something. It was in her wording, I spoiled everything forever or something like that. It felt like an eternity. I was waiting for her to tell me she had HIV. That's when she told me that she was months into a pregnancy that wasn't my doing. My heart sunk. I knew that the entire future we had always planned was gone. I told her everything would be fine and that I loved her, and that accidents happen. I asked for just a few details. How far along she was, and if she was being healthy. I then told her not to worry, she would hear from me again, but that I had to go. Afterward, I went back and looked at our phone and email history to try and pinpoint the day that she did this. Assuming it was only once and with one person, the worst part was that she cheated on me when everything seemed fine. We had talked that day and had a hilarious chain of emails. It was such a betrayal. Believe me, it hurt. The seriousness of pregnancy too. This wasn't just a blow job. She was carrying some other guy's kid. Like what was my dream was merely some other man's accident. After all this time, I still can't avoid crying when talking about the details of it. When I called her back, I told her she was forgiven. I was honest and told her that I was hurt and that I can't trust her anymore, but I wasn't cruel. She knew how hurt I was, but I think she was hurting much worse. Both of our dreams were shattered, but at least I didn't need to live with thinking it was my fault. I'll admit I had some horrible feelings and thought about some horrible things I'd like to say, but I just had no desire to be vengeful. When you love someone, you don't want revenge, you want to understand. I was just sad. This all happened a few years ago. For the sake of brevity, I'll sum this up by saying she had her baby and he is wonderful. I stayed with her as a friend through the entire ordeal. We are still close friends today. I am so happy that I didn't react harshly. She and I are not together, that trust is broken. However, I retained a friend, had a great life lesson as did she. I also got to practice love when it wasn't easy. Though it makes me sad to think about the details of this event, I'm very happy that I still have this person in my life. I'm very happy I wasn't mean to her when she was at her lowest point. I'd regret that today. This is the one comment I will respond to because I feel there needs to be some context. The moment she told me this information, it was over. She knew it and I knew it. The conversation was not going to be about hurt feelings and bruised egos, because now I was talking to someone who was pregnant with a child. I talked to her the way I would talk to any friend who was in a similar kind of crisis. It wasn't about me or us, it was about her and the baby. The worst thing I could have done was make her have any resentment around her pregnancy. It was important for the sake of this baby that from the get-go there were no hard feelings involving his existence. Furthermore, she was already beating herself up really badly, like really badly. I was worried. Even a half-hearted cry for help kind of event could have been detrimental to the health of the baby. She needed not to hear she was forgiven, but hear the words that would be said if she really was forgiven. She needed to be worse thing little Grace. No, She never said anything to hint she would hurt herself either, and she never held me emotionally captive. Once she was stable, I removed myself from the situation until after the pregnancy was over, and she was fine with that. She never played any mind tricks. I'm not a doormat, though I really don't take offense to being called one in this case. She turned into a desperate friend at that moment, so I had to respond accordingly. Protecting my pride was the last thing I was concerned about. I knew she was in a worse place, so it was my choice to do my part in making sure she and the baby got through this okay. I'm a strong person and I recovered just fine. My little brother gets walked all over by meaningless women because his life is controlled by his penis. There are other people in this thread who would have taken the girl back. I know doormats. I'm not a doormat. Someone also said I'm being taken advantage of. I promise you I'm not. At least no more than any friendship is a pair of people taking advantage of each other. I quickly drew boundaries. Yes, she and I are friends, but I've since moved on and I've been in a few relationships that have been normal and healthy. Despite getting a bit sad when retelling the story, it's really not much of a big deal at all anymore. I wouldn't even be able to guess in what way I'm being taken advantage of. No more replies from me. Thanks everyone. I've loved reading your comments, and I still am. In case it isn't completely clear, I am not in a relationship with this girl anymore. There seem to be a lot of commenters that missed that. Also, I fixed the word here to here. Sorry,